Love isn't always simple, and passion often comes at a price. Welcome to Intrigue Romance, where secrets, betrayal, and forbidden desires collide. Tonight, we take you into a story you won't forget, where love is never what it seems. I never thought I'd see the day when Jacob, my 22-year-old stepson, would need me. Our relationship had always been distant. He was polite but guarded, never fully accepting me as part of his family after I married his father, Mark, 3 years ago. It was a cold, rainy evening when I heard a hesitant knock on my door. Opening it, I was stunned to see Jacob standing there, drenched from head to toe, clutching a small backpack. His face looked pale, his blue eyes clouded with uncertainty. "Jacob, what are you doing here?" I asked, shocked. He hesitated before speaking. I didn't know where else to go," he said softly, avoiding my gaze. I quickly stepped aside. "Come in, you're soaked." As he entered my modest one-bedroom apartment, I grabbed a towel and handed it to him. He stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, unsure of what to do next. I couldn't remember ever seeing him look so vulnerable. "Sit down," I said gently, gesturing toward the small couch. "I'll make some tea." We sat in silence for a while, the sound of rain against the window filling the room. Jacob sipped his tea and finally started to speak. "I had a fight with Dad," he admitted, his voice barely audible. I couldn't stay there anymore." I didn't press him for details. It was clear he wasn't ready to share everything yet. Instead, I nodded and said, "You can stay here as long as you need to." As the evening wore on, it became obvious that my small couch wouldn't work as a sleeping arrangement for Jacob, who was over 6 feet tall. "I can take the floor," he offered, his tone firm. "Absolutely not," I replied. "You'll hurt your back. The bed is big enough for both of us. We'll share it, and we'll stay on our own sides." He looked at me uncertainly, but eventually nodded. "If you're sure." That night, we lay on opposite sides of the bed, the space between us feeling like an invisible wall. I could hear his breathing, steady but troubled. The next morning, Jacob seemed slightly more relaxed. Over breakfast, he began to open up, sharing bits and pieces of his story. The fight with his father had been about more than just a disagreement. It was the culmination of years of tension. Jacob felt like he could never live up to Mark's expectations. "He wants me to be perfect," Jacob said, staring down at his plate. "But I'm not. I've made mistakes, and he can't let it go." I listened carefully, offering a few words of encouragement, but mostly letting him vent. That evening, as we shared a simple dinner, Jacob surprised me by asking about my life. "What was it like for you growing up?" he asked, genuinely curious. I told him about my own struggles with feeling inadequate, about how I'd learned to stand up for myself and find my own path. "You don't have to be perfect, Jacob," I said. "Your worth isn't measured by someone else's expectations. It's about who you are and what makes you happy." Over the next few days, we fell into a routine. We shared meals, watched old movies, and had late-night conversations that revealed more about each other than we'd ever known. Slowly but surely, the walls between us began to crumble. By the end of the week, Jacob decided it was time to go back and face his father. "I think I need to talk to him," he said. "But thank you for letting me stay, for listening. I didn't think you'd care." His words caught me off guard. I reached out and squeezed his hand. "Your family, Jacob. Of course I care." As he walked out the door, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. Jacob had come to me at his lowest point, and in doing so, he had allowed us to build a bond that I hoped would last a lifetime. That week, I didn't just share my bed space with Jacob. I shared my heart, my empathy, and my unwavering support. And in return, he showed me that even the most strained relationships can be healed with patience and understanding.